Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Maseches Taanis, Daf Yud Gimel. We begin 5 lines from the top of the Amid. Amar Rav Chizda. Although we learned yesterday that during these Taanis, the fast days which were established due to the drought, they would refrain from Rechitza as well. So we learned about 3 sets of fast days. First set of 3, followed by another set of 3, followed by a final set of 7. And they would get progressively more and more severe in terms of restrictions. For instance, in the second and third sets of fast days, we have Issur Rechitza as well. So although we don't wash, but, says Rav Chizda, there is a difference between Issur Rechitza on Yom Taanis, which is not as severe and restrictive as during the days of Avelos, when a person observes the days of Shiva due to the loss of a relative. The point over there is to have full focus on the tragedy, on the event. Rashi in Sukkah says it provides kavod for the mace. The mace wants to keep in touch, so to speak, with those that he left behind. So the point there is to stay fully focused, refraining from any type of personal enjoyable experiences, including rinsing, and the fact that it has a chumrah over a Taanis tzibur. Amar Rav Chizda, kol shuhu mishum evil. Whenever one is experiencing restrictions due to avelus, kigoin Tisha B'Av v'avel, for instance, avel, the days of Shiva, or Tisha B'Av as well, which was modeled after avelus because it marks the Churban Beis Hamikdash. So that carries a greater chumrah over Taanis tzibur, and therefore it's asur bein b'chamin bein mitzoinen. One cannot wash, whether in hot water or even in cold water. Even washing with cold is meant to be refrained from. Kol shu mishum tanig, however, when the point is to refrain from enjoyable experiences, could go in Taanis tzibur. In that case, only b'chamin is asur. Rinsing with hot water is asur. True bathing is asur. That's a true experience. That's true hana. And tanug is not meant to be done. But soinin mutter, bathing with cold, that's okay, because this lesser degree of tanug is not important enough. It doesn't have the significance of a true hot water bath, and therefore is mutter on a Taanis tzibur. Now the Bach points out, of course, on Yom Kippur itself, which is a deraisa, at least according to some Rishonim, the Issur Rechitza is truly midiraisa. Some say it's only an asmachta. In any case, the point is, over there it's mochamer, we treat it more severely, and in that case, even a low degree of tanug, such as rinsing with cold, would be asur. But here we're speaking about contrasting avelus and Tisha B'Av as well, which is due to the churban, in contrast to the typical Taanis tzibur, where the Issur Rechitza is just to minimize pleasure and enjoyment, and this low-level enjoyment, bathing with cold, is not a problem. So two chidushim, avelus prohibits even cold, Taanis tzibur allows cold. Amar Rav Yehuda bar Avin, afanna namitanina. You know what? Our Mishnah also seems to support this concept that on a Taanis tzibur only bechamin is asur, betzoinin is mutter. Mishnah says, "V'noyalin esach merchatzois." They lock up the bathhouses. Typically, a bathhouse provides hot water. Apparently, only hot is asur. Only Abaye, you're proving that tzoinin is mutter. What else would the Mishnah have to say if tzoinin would be asur? Meaning, what do you see in the wording of the Mishnah that we're excluding an Issur by tzoinin? If ibit tzoinin asur, well, if the Mishnah would be including tzoinin in the Issur, would it use different words? The Mishnah would have said, well, we block up the rivers. What else could the Mishnah have said other than what it did say? Lock up the bathhouses. But perhaps really you can't rinse in cold either. Is that what it should have said? Block up the rivers? Rav Shisha was the son of Rav Idi. He came to explain his father's diuk, his father's raya. That Tzoinin is mutar on a Taanis tzibur. Abba, my father Ravidi, I'll explain to you what he had in mind. This is what the was kasha. This is the difficulty that he encountered in Lashon Mishnah, and this was his diuk as follows. Mechti, let's take a look. Tanan, the Mishnah already says asur b'rechitza, you can't bathe. Why does the Mishnah repeat noyal in esamarchetzois? Lamali, what's the point of that? It's a repetitive lashon, unless the Mishnah is trying to point out something, to make it kula. Apparently the Mishnah is trying to tell us bechaman asur, only in hot it's asur, such as the water typically found in a beis hamerchetz. But b'tzoyin and mutar, you can rinse, you can bathe, you can shower with cold. And that was the raya from our Mishnah. That tzoyin is mutar in a Taanis tzibur. Levi Masayele, perhaps we can have a raya from a brisa. To Rav Chizda's chiddush that an aval must refrain even from rechitza b'tzoyin. Halacha says, Kol chayavei tefillos, all those individuals who are obligated to do tefillah, they're tamei, and they have a mitzvah to be toivel. Toivel and kedarkan, they could be toivel as usual, bein b'tisha b'av, bein b'yom kippurim. Why? Rashi says, tefillah b'zmana, mitzvah, there's a mitzvah to be toivel in the right time. Yishanim actually at the end of Yuma explains a bit differently. He says, even if tefillah b'zmana is lav mitzvah, but you meant to know that the tefillah's mitzvah is not considered a tanuk. It's not rechitza shel tanik. It's not bathing which is meant to bring enjoyment. It's being done for the sake of mitzvah, and therefore it can be done on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur as well. Now let's analyze the price. But my askinon, what are you speaking about? What type of temperature, what type of water is he dealing with? Hot water? Tvila b'chamen mi'ika. How can you be tevel in hot water? She'uveninu, they're drawn. Rashi learns, to heat up the water, you have to use kettles, you have to use pots. They were drawn in a kli and unsuitable for mikveh. Taisus brings a raya from Al Gemara that mayim she'uvim, which were spilled out and allowed to trickle into the pool, are also asur. Even hamshacha does not rectify the psul of mayim she'uvim. Other mefarshim learn using a hot water for a mikveh is unacceptable because it appears like a merchatz. It's a gzeira d'rabbanan. It could be confused with a ordinary bathhouse. In any case, the Gemara seems to find difficulty with this assertion that we're speaking about being toivel on hot water. Okay, so that's off. Apparently we're speaking about being toivel on a cold mikveh. And what does the brisa say? Who can do it? V'chayave tefillah in. Only those who have a chiyuv to be toivel can do so. Typically, a person cannot be toivel, cannot rinse, bathe, or shower in cold water. Why? Because it's Tisha B'Av. You're observing the Churban Beis Hamikdash. You're being avil. And likewise, Yom Kippur, like we said before, carries that extra chumrah. It's a right of Chizda. An avil must keep away even from cold. Amar Rav Chana bar Katina, no. Perhaps we're speaking about hot water, and that's why it's a problem. But cold would not be a problem. How can you be toivel in hot water? It's ma'im she'uvin. L'nitzrucha. We're speaking elo l'chamit Tveria. Naturally hot water from the hot springs of Tveria. And that explains why typically you can't use this hot water, because you can't be toivel. You can't be reichetz on Tisha B'Av on Yom Kippur, but a chayvet tefillah shel mitzvah can. Yihachi. If that's the case, that tzoyin would not be a problem on Tisha B'Av. Amos Sefer, let's proceed to the next part of the Bryce. Amar Rav Chanina, Skana Kehanim, he disagrees. Skip the tefillah on Tisha B'Av. Kedayu, Beis Elokeinu. The house of our Hashem is worthy enough. La'abid olav tefillah pamachas b'shan, to skip one tefillah a year. Don't be toivel on Tisha B'Av. Don't divert your mind from the Churban Beis Hamikdash and be preoccupied with your own needs. So according to him, we don't allow tefillah on Tisha B'Av. Now, if according to you we're speaking dafka because it's hot water, but cold would be mutter, why would you have to skip? Just be toivel in cold. It's not a problem. The amras b'tzoyin and mutter, if you maintain that you can bathe in cold on Tisha B'Av, yirchatz b'tzoyin, and let him just be toivel in cold water. Why would Rav Chanina Skana Kehanim maintain that you have to skip tefillah altogether? We're speaking even in a place where there's no cold. All you have is hot. Still says Rav Chanina, skip the tefillah. But technically speaking, if you really can have access to a cold mikvah, you can be toivel. because during Ma'avelus, perhaps Tzainin is mutter. So in any case, we have no raya one way or the other. We attempted to bring a raya from here that an Avel is Asr b'Tzainin, and we don't really have any conclusion one way or the other. Tashma, now we're going to have a kasha, actually a kasha of Chizd. We're going to prove on the next brisa that even during a Taanis Tzibur, want us to keep away from rinsing b'Tzainin. A full body wash, even with cold water, is Asr. You meant to know a couple of things regarding those Isurim on a Taanis. Isur Malach is only during daytime, which is the Iker time when a person is preoccupied with Malacha. That's the Iker time that a person is meant to focus on Tshuva, like we learned yesterday. So the Isur Malach only applies by day. But during the first day, the night of the Taanis, Malacha is mutter. Next, we speak about going barefoot. That's only in the city. But if he's traveling, we allow him to wear shoes out of necessity. It's not called a tonic. He needs it for his travels. Well, how do you go about doing this? He's about to leave on his journey. Put on your shoes. Comes back into town. He doesn't really need the shoes. Remove the shoes and go barefoot. Next, and here's the crucial point of the brayso. When we speak about refraining from rinsing, it only applies to a full body bath. But just to bathe, rinse, face, hands and feet, that's mutter. The same concept applies to one who is in nidui, experiencing a cherem, one who is in mourning. Let's assume that when the brayso connects Avel to Taanis, it's regarding all these halachas. Melacha, Yilasa sandal, Rechitza. Oh. And what are we saying? You can do Rechitza on Panav Yadav Raglov. By Taanis Tzibur, and by Avel as well. Now, Ubemay Askinan, what type of water are we speaking about? Ilam B'cham, and perhaps hot water. That doesn't work. You're allowing an Avel to rinse face, hands, and feet with hot water. Panav Yadav Raglov Misharu. How can you maintain that? How can you suggest that a Avel can do even a partial rinse with hot water? V'Amar Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes tells us, Avel asala haishes its boy b'cham. An Avel cannot even stick his finger into hot water, even though it's just a partial rinse, part of his body, a minute part of his body, just a finger is asur b'chamin. So you can't suggest that an Avel can rinse panav yadav raglav with chamin. Of course not. Elav b'tzoinin. Apparently the brayso is speaking about cold water, and that's why we say, well, panav yadav raglav is mutter by the Taanis Tzibur, and likewise by the Avel. Why? Because first of all, it's cold. Secondly, it's just part of his body. So you have two factors working in your favor. And that's why it's mutter by Taanis Tzibur and Avel. Apparently, if it's a full body rinse, even with cold water, it would be usher by Taanis Tzibur as well. Because the brayso puts both together. Avel and Taanis Tzibur are the same halachas. That's a kasha of Chizd, who says that b'tzoinin would be mutter by Taanis Tzibur, because it's true, it's a full body bathe, but it's cold water. It doesn't have the same degree of tonic as hot water. Says the Gemara, no, don't bring me a kasha from this brayso. Lo ilam b'cham. Perhaps it's speaking about hot water, and that's why the brayso says that panav yadav raglav can be rinsed with chamin on a Taanis. Why? Although it's hot water, but it's just a partial rinse, part of his body. So you have one factor in favor. That's all you need by Taanis, right? If there are two factors in the negative, if it's hot water, full bath, that's asur. If it's cold water, even if it's a full bath, is mutter, because you have one factor in your favor. And likewise, even if it's hot water, But if it's only a partial bath, Panei of the Raglav is also mutter. According to Rabbi Kessler, the only time it's also by Taanis Tzibur is if there are two factors in the negative. But if you have only one factor in the negative and one favorable factor, again, either it's full body but it's cold, or it's hot water but it's only part of the body, it's mutter. And that's what the Bryce is speaking about. We're speaking about Bechamin, hot water, Panav Yadav Araglov. Only part of his body, and that's why it's mutter by a Taanis. This degree of pleasure is mutter. But then you had a kasha. The same halacha applies to a menuda and an aval, and that didn't work because by an aval we say you're more machmer, even if there's only one negative factor. For instance, temperature, hot water, but yet even part of his body, it's also asr. Likewise, if it's full body and cold, it's also asr. By an aval, even one negative factor is a problem. So how can you say that the aval could go ahead and rinse himself panav yadav raglav with hot water? Answer is ash'arakai. The connection between aval and Taanis is referring to the other halachas. We spoke about three things: malacha, nilas hasandal, and rechitza. Regarding malacha and nilas hasandal, we connect aval to Taanis tzibur, same halacha, same guidelines. When it comes to rinsing, comes to rechitza, it's a different story. And once again, according to Rav Chisda, the conclusion would be that when you have two factors in the negative, A, the temperature, it's hot, B, it's a full bath, of course it's asr in all cases, whether it's Taanis Tzibur, Avil, Tisha B'Av. When you have two positive factors, cold water and only part of the guf, in all cases it's mutter. When you have one element in your favor and one element in the negative, in that case, by Taanis Tzibur it's mutter, and by Aval it's asr. For instance, it's a full bath, but it's cold water. Taanis Tzibur is mutter. Aval is still asr. If it's hot water, but only panav yadav v'raglav, once again, by Taanis Tzibur it's mutter. Because this degree of pleasure is mutter by Taanis Tzibur, whereas by Aval, we say even a finger, asr lahishad, it's by b'cham. Because it's hot water. You have one negative factor, it's hot water, therefore it's asr. Tashma. Once again, we have a kasha of Chisda from a brisa which seems to tell us that an aval may take a full bath. Bitzainin, the Amar of Abba Kohen, Mishum Rabbi Yossi Kohen, Maasa, there was a story of Mesa Banav. Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina. Rabbi Yossi's children passed away. V'rachatz b'tzainin kol shiva, and he rinsed using cold water all throughout the shiva period. Apparently, bitzainin is mutter, even by an aval, because tzainin is that favorable factor which allows you to do rechitz, even though it's a full body bath. Hasam kishatachfu avel of That was a unique case. The avelis occurred in close succession. One son passed away, then another son. He was overwhelmed, and we'll make exception for that case. The sanya takfu avel of zeh. The person experienced lo yelenu, tragedy after tragedy. Takfu is a lashon of tekef, with immediacy, close succession. So we allow some leniencies. If his hair gets too heavy, make a bit tar, you can trim it a bit, lighten it a bit with using a razor. You can rinse, you can do laundry, just using water. Rav Chisda betar, only by using a razor, not with a scissor. You have to show shinoi. You have to deviate. Refrain from conventional haircutting. So just a razor, a slight trim. Likewise, when it comes to washing his clothing, b'mayim, using water, not using any cleansing agents. A special exception. In this case, we had tragedies close proximity to each other. But typically, an aval has to keep away from rechitza, even b'tzainin. Amar Rava disagrees with Rav Chisda. Cold water by an aval, never a problem. Aval mutar lirchatz b'tzainin kol shiva. You know what? An aval can use tzainin all throughout the shiva period. Mida dahava bisra v'chamra. You know what it's like? We allow the aval to eat basar, Chamra, to drink wine. The Gemara soon tells us, I want to give him something to alleviate his anxiety and his pain and his tsar. And therefore, this rechitza b'tzoyin, this degree of pleasure is so minimal, it's not considered a interference with his avilos. Meisvei of a kasha on Rav from a brisa, where it seems to say that an aval may not be rechitz b'tzoyin, like Shitas Rav Chisda. Eina b'geras rasha l'navalas atzma b'mei evil avia. A begeris, an older girl, who's of marriageable age, she may not appear derelict. She can't make herself ugly, refrain from rinsing, even during the shiva, during the period of mourning for her father. Honara, so we have apparently a younger girl who doesn't have that consideration. Rasha, she's allowed to observe Avelis, and Taisus learns Rasha means she has to observe Dini Avelis in honor of her father. Now let's analyze the topic. What are we speaking about? In what way is she observing Avelis? Malab Rechitz, apparently we're speaking about rinsing. So the Begeris goes ahead and rinses, and the Nara does not. Now, what is she using to be Rechetz? We're speaking about hot water. The Brisa tells us, Einam Begeris Rasha. A Begeris may not refrain from rinsing. She has to be Rechetz even during Avelis. May not rinse with hot water. How can we make exception in this case because of the concept of the factor of nisuin? How can she go ahead and go against the avelus, which is a chiyuv? Elav bitsuin. Apparently, we're speaking about cold water, which isn't really technically us. And we say, look, the begeris should take care to appear attractive to. Rashi says people should she should have making good impression. Whereas a Nara doesn't have that consideration. So what do we see here? We see that a Nara should refrain from rinsing betzoinen, even though it's just tzoinen. An aval is asher betzoinen. That's a kasha to Rav, who tells us tzoinen is never an issue. Says in Malay, akichel pirchus. We're not speaking about washing or rinsing. We're speaking about kichel, applying some eye paint, pirchus, braiding the hair. Other forms of beautification, which isn't really technically usher during the Avelis. It's not like Rechitza, and therefore we say that the Begeris should keep away from these types of restrictions, in order to enhance her appearance, whereas a Nara must go ahead and observe these restrictions. Says the Morlema Masayeli, perhaps we can have a raya to Rav. Rav who tells us that an oval may rinse b'tzoinen. We have a raya to Omar Abba Kohen, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda Kohen, Maiso Mesu Bnoya Banav Shal Rabbi Yehuda Chanina. That was the brisa we had earlier. His sons passed away. V'rachas b'tzoinen kol shiva, and he rinsed b'tzoinen. Apparently, an oval may do that. Amri answers the Gemara, like we said before. Hassam, that was an exceptional case. V'shatokfu avelav zechazeh, experienced avelos one after the other. He was overwhelmed. The sanya tokfu avelav zechazeh. If one has that experience, then we allow some kulois. Hichbetz ari mekel batar. His hair gets overgrown. He can trim it with a razor. Or machabes ksusa b'mayim. He can do some laundry using water. Or Rav Chisda batar. He can trim specifically only with a razor. Avlo b'misparaim, not your typical scissors. B'mayim, you can wash his clothes with water. V'lei b'neser b'choil, not with neser, b'choil, v'lei b'oil, all kinds of cleansing agents. So there's no raya to Rava's chiddush. Iked Amri. Now there was actually another girsa of Rava, which conforms with Rav Chisda. Amar Rava, aval asur b'tzoinen kol shiva. In fact, an aval cannot bathe even b'tzoinen throughout the 7 days of shiva. Now, ma'ishna b'basar yayin. So according to the first edition, Rava compared it to the heter, to have meat and wine. And here we're saying it's asa. Now we have a kasha. Why is it different than basar v'yayin, which is allowed during the Shiva period? Hasam luf chudei pachade. Hudei avid. The reason why we allow basar v'yayin is to help him alleviate his anxiety, his pain, and his tsar, to give him some outlet. But when it comes to rinsing, that's too much of a diversion from the Avelis, and we don't allow it even b'tzoinen. Lema Misayeli. Now the same kasha we had before from the Brisa on the first gifts of Rava. Now we're going to use that Brisa as a raya to Rava, who now says that Tzainin is Aser. Brisa says, Eina Begeres Rasha Lavel Atzma. The older girl cannot appear derelict. Hanara Rasha. Apparently the younger girl may do so, is meant to do so. What are we speaking about? Rinsing with what? Ilam b'chamin, with hot water. So you tell me that the Begeres can go ahead and rinse, can bathe in hot? Eina Begeres Rasha. She's not allowed to observe Avelus. V'amar Chisda. That's a true Isser. Bathing in hot is Asr. We can't allow any exceptions here. Oh, we must be speaking about bathing in cold. And here we say the Begeres should not keep that restriction. She should appear attractive, whereas the Nara doesn't have that consideration. No, says the Rai from here, that an Avel is meant to refrain from Tzainin. So Tzainin is not as severe as Chamin, and therefore we make exception. We allow the Begeres. But the Nara is meant to observe this Isser and refrain from Rechitza Bet Tzainin. It's a right to the second Girsa of Rava. No, we're not speaking about rinsing at all. Akichulu Pirchas. We're speaking about other forms of beautification. And then we make that exception. The Begeres should be careful not to appear ugly, as opposed to the Nara, who doesn't have that consideration. But Rechitza, that's not the topic of conversation. Omar of Chizd, Zoisei Meres. Now that we've come to this point, that we say that Kichul Pirchas should not be done, typically should not be done during the Yimei Avelis, unless there's a special need to do so. So we learn from here that an Avel is not meant to be preoccupied with his own personal appearance, and therefore Avel also betachboises kol shiva. Not only may Avel not take a haircut or rinse, he can't even do tachboises, laundry. He can't be occupied with his beautification, with his appearance. So now we had Rav Chizda, right? One lashon of Rava, second lashon of Rava regarding Rechitza during a Taanis Tzibur and during Avelis. What's the maskana behachasa? Avel asur lirchetz kol gufay ben bechamen b'metzayin kol shiva. We pass like Rav Chizda, and like the second lashon of Rava. An Avel may not divert his mind at all from Avelis. He can't do Rechitza. A full body bath is Asr, whether it's Chamin or Tzayin, throughout the period of Shiva. Aval Panav Yadav V'Raglav. What about a partial rinse? Panav Yadav V'Raglav. B'Chamin Asr. If it's with hot water, it's Asr, because you have one factor in the negative. It's hot water. So even though it's a partial rinse, but B'Chamin is Asr. B'Tzayin Mutter. But if it's cold water, so you have two positive elements playing here. You have cold water, and it's just a panav yadav v'raglav. In this case, even avel is mutter. Avel losach, but to smear with oil, I feel kol shu aser, even a drop is aser. B'im la'aver is adzuma mutter. The point is to remove dirt. He's not trying to enhance his appearance or add comfort, just trying to remove zuama, sweat, or whatever. Then it's mutter. So in conclusion, we learned that regarding Isser Rechitza, it depends if it's Chamin, if it's Tzainin, full body bath, or just Panav Yadav V'Raglav. Now, there are two negative elements at play. It's Chamin, and it's a full body bath. In all cases, it's Asr, whether Taanis Tzibur, whether in a time of Avelis. On the other side of the spectrum, you have a case where both positive elements are there. It's cold water, it's Tzainin, and just Panav Yadav V'Raglav. In this case, certainly it's mutter. It doesn't really have significance. It's not considered a true tonic. It's just a quick rinse with cold water. That's mutter in either case, whether Taanis Tzibur or a time of Avelis. The question is when you have one positive factor and one negative one. For instance, hot water, but it's only Panav Yadav V'Raglav. In that case, we say, by a Taanis Tzibur, it's mutter. That small degree of hana is mutter, whereas by an aval, over there we're more machmer. We don't want any deviation, any diversion, and it's asr. Likewise, when it comes to tzainin, where you have that positive factor. It's just tzainin. It doesn't provide a proper bath. But it's called gufay. Once again, we have that distinction between Taanis tzibur, where it's mutter, as opposed to by Avel, where, according to Rav Chizda and the second lashon of Rava, it would be aser. Now, I just want to point out two things. Firstly, the Hagoes Abach and Amar Aleph pointed out that on Yom Kippur, although it's just a Taanis, we're very machmer. He says Yom Kippur shubu da'iraisa, afal b'shu mishum tanug, even though the fact that there is tanug, it's not available. Aser bein mechamer b'mitzayna, you can't do rechitza whether hot or cold, part of the body or the whole body. And likewise, the Rishonim, the Ran points out that by Tisha B'Av, we compare it to Yom Kippur, in a way that we say that even a minor rinse, even a rechitza b'tzoinen, just a part of his goof is also aser. We treat it like Yom Kippur. Now we know that on a fast day we have the special tefillah, tzloisa de Taanis. That's the Aneinu Hashem Aneinu b'yemtzam Taanisenu, which we say during Shema Tefillah. Shliach Tzibur says it as a special bracha between Goyel and Roifei. The Gemara is going to discuss the exact placement and location of that tefillah. Tzloisa de Taanis, the tefillah of a Taanis, heichimat karinan. Where do we place it? Where in Shemona Esrei does it come? Adbere Rabbi Yehuda was the father, and he took for a walk his son, Rabbi Yitzchak Brei, V'darish, and he told him as follows: Yachad shekibel of Taanis. If an individual committed himself to a personal Taanis, mispal shel Taanis, even then he will say Tfilas Taanis Aneinu. Ve'echen oimra. Where would he say it? Ben Goyel Reifei, between the bracha of Goyel, Rein of Anyenu, V'Revenu, and the bracha of Reifei, Rafeinu Hashem V'nei Rafei. So we compose a special bracha which gets inserted between those two brachas. He has a total of 19 brachas in Shemona Esrei. Actually, today it's 20 because we have a Malshinim. But the chiddush is that he gets a special bracha, even though it's only a Taanis Yachad. Maskav Rav Yitzchak. So presumably it's his son Rabbi Yitzchak who asked his father, "What do you mean? Do you mean to say that a Yachad deserves to get his own bracha? We modify the Shemona Esrei for him? That's a chiddush." Elam Rav Yitzchak, no, I say it's b'Shemei Tefillah. You don't change the Shemona Esrei for a Yachid. It doesn't deserve such privileges. Rather, he puts it into Shemei Tefillah, like we say today. We put it into Shemei Tefillah. Even by Taanis Tzibur we do that. V'chein Amar Rav Sheshes b'Shemei Tefillah. That's what we say Aneinu. Meisvei we're gonna have a kash. Brisa says, Ein ben Yachid leTzibur. You know what the difference between a Yachid and a Tzibur by a Taanis is? There's one difference. Ela shezeh mispal Shemona Esrei. A Yachid davens 18 brachas in his Shemona Esrei. V'zeh mispal Esrei. Whereas the Tzibur has 19 brachas. Now, my Yachid my Tzibur. What is this term Yachid and Tzibur? Ilay mi Yachid mamish. Does Yachid mean that an individual who's davening, whether it's during his personal Taanis or during the Taanis Tzibur, he will have 18 brachas, as opposed to the Tzibur, who gets 19, that's a shas, a shliach Tzibur. So that's a formula. During your own personal Shemona Esrei, whether it's a personal Taanis, whether it's a public fast day, you have 18 brachas. You don't get that extra bracha. Your Aneinu is put into Shemei Tefillah, as opposed to Chazan. He represents the Tzibur. He composes a new bracha for Aneinu. That doesn't work. Han is a Shah Esrei? Do you mean that he'll only have a total of 19? We know that they used to add 6 more brachas in the Shemona Esrei during the fast days, described in the beginning of the next parak. So it's not 19, it's really 18 plus 6, it's 24, at least 24. Apparently the Bryce is saying like this. We're not speaking about the Chazan. He gets 24, rather. Ein ben Yachid. The Kibbul Olav Taanis Yachid. You know what the difference between an individual who is makabel on himself a personal Taanis, in contrast to the Yachid Shekibul Olav Taanis Tzibur, so the individual who is davening during a Taanis Tzibur. If you engage in your personal tefillah during your personal Taanis, that doesn't justify adding a new bracha. You put the tefillah's Taanis into Shemei Tefillah. So you have a total of 18 brachas. As opposed to Bezeh, this fellow who's involved in a Taanis Tzibur, even though he's engaged in his own personal quiet tefillah, Mispal Shasra, he gets 19 brachas, he gets that extra added bracha of Anenu. Shmamina, this proves our point. That what? Yachid Kaveh Bracha La'atzmei. Even an individual during his personal tefillah will add a new bracha when he's involved in a Taanis Tzibur. No. Perhaps when the Brisa says the Tzibur gets 19, that's a Shliach Tzibur. But a Yachid never gets an extra bracha. Regarding your question, Shliach Tzibur Esrim Ba'arba Matzli. Shliach Tzibur does 24, not 19. You know what? We're speaking about the first set of fast days. There were 3 sets of fast days, which would rise in severity as we go on. So the first 3, Monday, Thursday, and Monday, did not have the added element of the extra brachas. Begimot Taanis Rishonis, the Lek Esrim Ra'arba. The first set of fast days, it wasn't yet so desperate and so severe. It did not have the extra brachas. You just have your standard Anenu. That gets you to 19. But of course, a Yachid doesn't get an extra bracha. We're talking about the Shlech Tzibur, not the Yachid. Is that so that during the first 3 fast days there was no 24 brachas? Look, the Mishnah draws a parallel between the first 3 fast days and the next set of fast days. And the Mishnah says, Ein ben, there's no difference except for the following items. Ein ben gimel rishonis, l'gimel mtziyos. You know what the only differences were between the first fast days and the middle fast days? The first set, you can work. In the second set of fast days, there was Isser Malacha. Apparently. Otherwise, they're on equal footing. Halach Abdalad, apparently when it comes to the extra brachas in Shemon Esrei, Zev is a Shavan. They're both equal. Which means that even during the first set of fast days, they daven 24. When the Brisa speaks about 19, apparently you're not speaking about the Shliach Tzibur, speaking about an individual who does add Anenu as a separate bracha. So we're going to go back and forth, try to figure this out. What does the Brisa have in mind? That a Tzibur gets 19. Is it the Yachid who gets an extra bracha, as we suggested, or is it the Shliach Tzibur? The Yachid never gets an extra bracha. He puts his Anenu to Shemei Tefillah. At this point, the Gemara says, look, we seem to have a clear eye from the Mishnah that throughout all those fast days, Shliach Tzibur would say 24 brachas. So when the Brisa speaks about 19, it must be speaking about a Yachid who gets an extra bracha for name. Tana V'shir. You know what? Although the Tana does contrast, does seek to compare the various sets of fast days, and gives us one difference regarding Malacha, but Tana V'shir, he gave a list and left something out. And perhaps he left this out. Meaning that that's another difference between the first and second fast days. In the first set of fast days, there was no 24 brachas. It was only 19, and that's what the Brisa had in mind. Shliach Tzibur says 19, but not the Yachid. Now, that's not typical, to leave out just one thing. If you leave out a bunch of things, so you have a partial list. My shir, what else did he leave out? What else did he omit from his list of comparisons? The Haishir, which would substantiate that he left out something else as well. Give me another thing that he left off his list. V'su, another kasha. How can you say there's a difference between the first and second fast days? For ein ben ketani, the Brisa clearly says, Mishnah says, there is no difference except for the following thing, malacha. Apparently, otherwise they're equal. Apparently, there were 24 brachas in the first set of fast days. Apparently, when the Brisa speaks about 19 brachas, it's the Yachid who gets an extra bracha. Ella says the Gemara, you know what? Tana b'isuri kamayri, but tefillas le'mayri. The Brisa here is not speaking about tefillas, which will be discussed in the second parak. We're speaking about restrictions, limitations, isurim. You know what the difference between the first and second sets are? Isur malacha. But perhaps there's another difference when it comes to tefillas. We're just not talking about tefillas here. And perhaps in the first set of 3 fast days, there is no chavdalad bracha. It's only 19. That's what the Brisa is speaking about. Not a yachid. It's a shliach tzibur during those first 3 fast days. Another pshat can be, You know, even in the second set of fast days, I do 3 sets. First set contained 3 fast days. Next set, another 3 fast days. Then the final set of 7 fast days. Perhaps in the middle set of 3 fast days, there was no 24 brachas. So now it makes sense that the Mishnah compared the first and second sets of fast days. In both cases, there's no Chavdal brachas. There's only one difference. It's a malacha, but otherwise they're equal and the same. There's no additional brachas in Shemona Esrei. All you have is the 19, and that's what the Brisa was speaking about. The Shtech Tzibur during those first 2 sets of fast days does 19 brachas. Why really? In the middle set, there's no Chavdal brachas. Vatanya, Amen Gimel Shniyos L'Shav Achronis. You know what the only differences are between the second set of fast days, the 3 middle ones, to the last 7. It's only as follows: Elo shebe'elu masriyin v'noel esachanuyos. In the last and final phase of fasting, we add masriyin, blow the shofar, we lock up the groceries. That's the only difference between the second and third sets. Apparently, regarding everything else, they're fully comparable. So you can't suggest that there was no chavdal brachis in the middle set of fast days. Okay, and then if the Mishnah compared the first and the second, apparently in the first fast days, there was also 24 brachis. Perhaps you'll say, Hachanami Tana Bashir. Now perhaps there is one more difference between the second and third fast days. On the second set, there was no Chavdalat, and the Brisa just left it out. When the Mishnah says the difference is on the Tkiyos and all that, we left something out. What is it we left out? Chavdalat brachis, which only applies in the third set, not in the second set. Va'ein bein ketani. Look at the wording in the Mishnah. There's no difference between the second and third except for the following items. Apparently, otherwise they're equal and the same. There's Chavdal brachas in the middle set, and likewise, let's assume, the fact that we compare the first to the second, there's Chavdal in the first one as well. And when the Brisa spoke about 19 brachas, it's the Yachid, going around in circles. Says the Gemara V'Tisper, how can you say that Ein Bein Dafka, you're being medayik the words Ein Bein? This is the only difference. We actually find another difference between the second and third sets. For Shir Teva, the Mishnah omitted the concept of Teva. They used to take the Aron Kodesh out in the street. That only applied in the third set, the third and final phase of fast days. So the Brisa left it out. The Mishnah left it out. So once we have one omission, perhaps we have more omissions, such as 24 brachas that only apply in the third and final set, not in the middle set. Perhaps in the first set as well, there's no 24. Perhaps the Brisa speaks about 19. That's the Shlech Tzibur, but the Yachid doesn't get an extra brach. Try to keep a handle on the track here. Says the Gemara of Imasham Teva Lav Shiurhu. Well, that's not considered an omission. Using that as an example of an omission, that's not considered a shiur. The fact that the Mishnah did not point out that they only carried the Teva out in the third set, not in the second set. Mili did sinakatani, because the Mishnah is speaking about things which they did in private. Rashi says, in shul they would blow the shofar, they would say the brachas. We're not yet discussing things which are done publicly. Mili did for heslakatani. We haven't really just gotten to the point of things which were befarhesi in public. So the fact that we didn't discuss the Teva, that's not a right to anything. It doesn't indicate any omission. Oh, so assuming there is no omission, let's assume that typically second and third sets are fully compatible, fully equal, fully comparable. So apparently, just as during the third set there was 24 brachas, likewise in the second set. And the fact that the other Mishnah compares the first to the second, there was 24 in the first set as well. And when the Brisa speaks about 19 brachas during a fast day, it must be the Yachid who gets an extra brach. Amar Rashi Masnisin Namideka. If you take a close look at the Lashon Mishnah, it seems pretty clear that what? That second and third sets of fast days both feature 24 brachas. Diktani. Ma'ilu Yiseiros al Rishonis. In what way with the third and final fast days more severe than the previous set? During the last phase of fast days, they used to add trua, they used to blow shofar, to ma'ir l'tshuva, they used to lock up the groceries. In this way, the third and final set was more chamer than the previous set of fast days. Ava b'chol devrein. Apparently, regarding everything else, zev is a shavan. Second and third sets were equal and the same. And there was chavdal brachis included in the Shemona Esrei of the second set of fast days as well. And let's assume the same regarding the first set, which are compared to the second set. In which case, when the Brisa speaks about 19 brachas on the fast days, that's the Yachid, who gets an extra bracha for Anenu. Perhaps we'll say, Hachanami Tana V'Shir. Perhaps the Brisa is just leaving something out, omitting something from the list of comparisons. Perhaps really, the din of Chavdalit brachas by Shemona Esrei only applies in the third set, not the second set. Why didn't the Brisa point it out? Why didn't the Mishnah point it out? They left something out. But really, there is no 24 brachas in the second set, and perhaps during the first set as well. It's only 19, and that's what the Brisa is speaking about. The Shliach Tzibur has 19, but not a Yachid. How can you say that? Ma'ilu Ktani. Ma'ilu sounds pretty accurate. These are the differences between second and third sets of fasting. Just these, Tzruah and Noyal Nachanuyas. But brachas, both sets of fast days, second and third phases, get 24 brachas. V'tisbra. Do you really mean to think, do you really mean to say that ma'ilu dafku, that the words ma'ilu are accurate and dafku? There's only a difference between the two sets of fast days. We have an omission, v'ashir la teva, left out the concept of teva, which only applies in the third set, not in the second set. So apparently the Brisa, the Mishnah, left something out. And apparently he left out the Chavdalit brachas as well, which only applies in the final set of fast days, not in the middle set. Imishum teva lav shiurhu. While leaving out the concept of the teva being carried through the street, that's not an omission. Mishum de gechashav le'abidach kiperik, that's discussed in the next parak. Whoever learns the first parak will Be'ez Hashem get to the next parak, says Rashi. We don't have to cover all bases at once. That's a topic discussed at great length, in great detail, in the next parak. And therefore, it's not considered an omission from this list. And therefore, otherwise, the list is pretty accurate. And the fact that the Mishnah does not bring this as a dividing point, meaning, the Mishnah says there are only two differences between the second and third sets of fast days. Masriyin and Alan Sachanuyas. Apparently, otherwise they're equal. Which means Chavdalit brachas are recited in the second set of Taanis as well. And therefore in the first set as well. And therefore when the Brisa speaks about 19 brachas, that's a Yachid, not a Tzibur. Says there one more point. Let's not give up. Hashta de asas lachi. But now you have come to this point. You have arrived at this point. That what? That something discussed in the next parak does not have to be addressed in this parak. Listen to this. Esrim ra'abo nam bilav shiurhu. Perhaps we can speculate and say that during the second phase of Tanios, there was no 24 brachas. Only 19. 24 only applied in the third and final state. Only in those last 7. If so, why did the Mishnah point it out? This is another point of distinction between second phase of fast days and third phase. Lav shiuru, it's not considered a shir. You know why? The Tani lo bidach pirka. That's discussed later in the next parak. We don't have to go into every detail of Tanios. We're not up to that topic yet. Oh, if that's the case, then we can very easily say that indeed 24 brachas in Shemona Esrei only applies during the last phase of fast days, during the last stage of 7 Tanios, as opposed to the previous stages, as opposed to the first 3, the next 3. They didn't feature extra brachas in Shemona Esrei. The Mishnah simply didn't point out these things because we're not up to the discussion of the content of Shemona Esrei, of the 24 brachas, which are discussed in great detail in the next parak. Having said that, the Brisa that spoke about a tzibur engaging in 19 brachas, it can very well be speaking about the shliach tzibur during the first 2 phases of fast days, where there were no 24 brachas, only 19. The 19th being Anenu, which is an extra new bracha for the shliach tzibur. But perhaps a yachid doesn't get that privilege. We can't modify the Shemona Esrei on his behalf. So, back to the original question. Does a yachid say Anenu as a separate bracha, or does he insert it into Shemei Tefillah? We tried to bring a rise back and forth with no conclusion. My havela. So what's the conclusion? Omar Rav Shmuel Bas Sas Retoi, Rechei Bar Ashi Omar Rav Bein Goyel Reife. He gets an extra new bracha composed, which is inserted between Goyel and Reife. Just as the tzibur gets its own bracha, it's not considered making a new bracha for the yachid. He's part of the tzibur, he's part of the Taanis tzibur, and it seems like even if it's his own personal Taanis, a fast day gets a new bracha. Ravashi Omar Mishmed Rav Yanai Breda Vishmol B'Shemei Tefillah. The yachid doesn't modify his Shemoneh Esrei; he puts it into Shemei Tefillah. And the conclusion is B'Shemei Tefillah, as we do today. Shtech tzibur, he has his own personal bracha between Goyel and Reifei, but us, the Yidit Tzibur, we put it into Shemei Tefillah. Okay, let's do a quick chazara. We discussed Isser Rechitza during Taanis Tzibur, during a period of Avelis. When we have two negative elements, Chamen, it's hot water, and it's Kol Gufa, in all cases it's Asa. When you have two positive elements, it's Soinin, and it's just Panav Yadav Raglav. So you have two factors that are favorable. In this case, it's always mutter. What if it's one-on-one? For instance, it's hot water, but it's just Panav Yadav Raglav. During a fast day, it's mutter. By Avelis, even that is Asr. We don't want any diversion. We want full focus on the experience. Likewise, if it's Kol Gufay, but it's just Soinin. So once again, it's one favorable element. Rav says Rav Chizda, during a Taanis, it's mutter. However, by an Avel, Rav Chizda says that's Asr. Whereas Rav in the first Girsa held that even in this case, even by an Avel, it would be mutter. Of course, as pointed out earlier, by Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur were machmer, even to Moshe Eitz Boi B'Tzoyin would be Asr. Even a small measure of Tanakh is Asr in these cases. Concluded with the bracha of Anenu. So, according to one shita, he gets his own personal bracha, whereas according to the other shita, and that's indeed the Maskanas HaGemara, V'Hilchasa, B'Shemei Tefillah. Kol Tov to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.